Joan Baez, co-director Karen O'Connor, and moderator Allison Anders.
Oh, you.
We're going to be serious now.
We're going to be serious. She's having me in stitches.
Hysterical. I greeted her, right? As it usually greet somebody, nice to meet you. She goes, wee! And then breaks like this. I thought she was going to crack a rib. But
that would have been bad had I hugged her so hard that she wouldn't be here with you right now. Wow, how was that? What a beautiful movie. So I'm going to jump right in. I love that you guys have had this long relationship, Karen and Joan. And so the film has such an intimacy to it. I was even joking that I could even look at her cosmetics and go, oh, I have some of that. You know, so how the intimacy of this is so beautiful and so rare to see in a documentary. So how did this come about that you decided to make this movie together? And what was that like? What was the process like?
Well, we have known each other since the late 1980s, so there was a history, which I think very much is a part of the film in that way. Joan's known my work and my co-directors Mary Navasky and Mabel Boyle, so also she knew our other films, so there's beyond the personal connection knowing our work. And then at one point, sort of around 2013-14, started to seriously talk about a last tour and really kind of coming to the end of a 60-plus year music career. So Mary and I started talking about that idea that there had to be something potentially interesting in following Joan Baez coming to the end of a career, and that it would give us a kind of narrative, a contemporary strand. But Joan wasn't sure if she was going to quit or not, but we thought either way it would be interesting to potentially follow what was happening with her. And then we did a little bit of filming, and then into it, Mary and Maeve and I kind of hunkered down in California for a month and went into Joan's world there and
survived.
And the scene in the film where Joan goes into the storage unit for the first time, it was really going into the storage unit for the first time. She'd never been there before, and it was then that Joan, as she describes it, gave us the keys to the family archive, and that changed everything in the film. We suddenly realized it would go from just a verite film following her on the last tour with the archival material and this trove of material, these audio tapes, the movies, the letters home. We could tell the past differently, and so we had a way in our minds to do something closer to maybe time travel, that we then thought it would be more of a visual memoir where the past and present would merge, and that even when you were in the past, it would feel immediate and immersive because you would have Joan 21 years old in the march. And so it opened it in a different way. And then Joan, because at that point in her life, you can take it, was ready to kind of, I think, do this kind of different kind of film.
You know, I was in a sort of what do I got to lose position, and wanted to leave an honest legacy behind, approaching 80 at that point. And I trusted Karen, I knew Mary, and we just kind of, that hunkering down period was a decision-making time. Okay, let's go for it. And I think she's right, it was one thing when we started out, and then when I gave them literally the keys to my life, and then I had nothing to do with it after that. I mean, I didn't see footage, I didn't have anything to say about it. So it was total
That's
trust.
amazing.
Well, it would have been impossible because I would have wanted to tweak this and get the lighting a little better on that one. The lighting. Yeah. I love this one about my courage.
Oh yeah, I said to Joan, yes, you were threatened by the Klan. Yes, you were in the bomb shelter in Hanoi. Yes, you were gassed in Latin America, but nothing may be braver than agreeing to a verite film with only natural light. No, she didn't have final cut. It was important to Mary and me that we not. We had a big conversation going in. As you all probably know, many of these celebrity documentaries are carefully curated and controlled. They're often involved in the production. They often have approval, and it's our old journalism background where we wanted an editorial firewall. And it was a film about Joan. It wasn't Joan's film, if that makes sense. It was a distinction that mattered so that we could have a different kind of storytelling. And because of who Joan is, as you know, there are many things about the film people may or may not like. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody more honest about her life on and off the stage.
Absolutely.
And there are some things that I, thought, oh God, I'm really going to put this in here. But then finally, eventually realizing that whatever it was going to make the film the right film, which it did. So I'm good with it. Wrinkles, warts, all of it. Just, I'm glad it took place. Also, because of some of the sensitive material, my family was gone. I couldn't have done all that if they were still alive. It's too hurtful. So I took the plunge, and I took it with the right people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely the right people. And I think that that's probably what makes it feel so intimate and so honest. I mean, the simple things that that might pass. I mean, as a mother, to admit where you have been wrong as a mother is like that is so. That's one of those things that's really hard to do. We always want to, especially in this day and age with Instagram, you want to really present yourself a certain way. And it was just beautiful, that kind of ownership of where you felt like you let down or, you didn't do your best or, it's just like so vulnerable.
And it was learning for me. I mean, seeing my sisters talk openly to Karen because they trusted Karen, they could never have said those things to me. I mean, I had a general idea of what it was all about, but never heard my sister Pauline actually say, I had to get out of there.
Yeah.
I had to get out of this, basically she was stifled and had to leave.
Yeah.
And I just hearing the words and my son saying that the wounds were deeper than I thought, and the feeling of my having not been present was deeper than I thought. And I mean, he's lovely in the film. I think he speaks eloquently and protectively and forgivingly.
Yes.
Karen just brings out the best in all of those folks. Yeah.
Absolutely, I agree. And there's something of, go ahead, Karen.
No, I also think Joan on Fame, all of it. I mean, I just think of the things beyond, obviously, the painful psychiatric issues, but everything from the dips in fame, the complications of fame for family, the bus leaving without her. I mean,
that I don't mind. That's just a fucking riot. Business bias, bus stop. And somebody else said, oh shit, we forgot bias. Pick me up. I should have known right then it was time to quit the tour.
I love you being honest about that album cover,
Oh, that's another one. That's another one.
That's so me, I can't even believe it.
I was going to try and justify that. I couldn't have done that.
That album cover
It's my Quaalude album cover.
Yeah, I love that.
Also, seeing a woman age on the screen, I also love that she's
please, I love that too.
She's
It's beautiful.
Just for me that, and I think still beautiful and just amazing looking, but even in natural light.
Now, I was wondering if I was thinking a lot about Diamonds and Rust and how, it's beautiful while we go into that in the movie. I feel like it was activism to my mind to be that personal because it made me feel seen. I feel like that song even made me become a woman, if that makes sense. So I wonder if you see this and this movie being so personal feels like a kind of activism to me. And I wonder if you see that as the personal as activism, if you both feel that.
Well, what's interesting is that I didn't have that in my mind to begin with, but what I've seen is the response of people with their own problems, and their own traumas, and they're very vocal about it. I think, in a way it gives permission to moms to go ahead and feel guilty and not worry about it. We all do, etc. And so in that way, it's service, it serves people, and I think that's icing on the cake for me.
Yeah, I love that.
I do think it is true. I mean, for me, I think I said it with a friend. It's not singing to 500,000 people in the March on Washington, but it is for me a kind of emotional activism. It's a kind of psychological reveal that allows, by opening her life, allows people to kind of open theirs in ways privately or publicly. And so yeah, I think you're right. I think it's not political in some obvious way, but it's radical in its own.
Right.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there is some connection, or it feels that way. Or maybe of service is the way that you describe it, Joan.
Service. Yeah, I guess that's what it is, isn't it? And I also just loved. I loved being in your space. As I told you, I saw the CBS Sunday Morning, and there was this great interview with her chickens there at this beautiful house that they've got, and in the movie that you've seen. And I just there was something about that as well that was so touching to me, that you were able to get into that space, and I feel like I was really, really welcomed in.
Yeah, well, you were.
Thank you.
You were.
I was in.
And part of my life's work has been trying to break down the barrier between the public and myself, because it's all so silly. We know that we are really all the same with our different talents or gifts, worries and fears and traumas and all of it. There's not any particular difference between this front row and myself.
And do you feel like, how do you, another thing that really touched me in the movie was just feeling your commitment to nonviolence. And it's the only thing for me that comforts me now in such an insane time that we're in. And you had this amazing institute, this school, and how do you apply, how do we apply this in our lives?
Well,
and in our work, and
it is the worst time that I can imagine in this country. We couldn't have dreamed it up or written it or anything years ago, that it would be this disastrous at the moment. And all of the political stuff and the wars and who's running for president, all dwarfed by global warming. So we're facing this. So I think that it really behooves us to find something to do that calls us. We put a list of things from gun control to prison work to LGBTQ community work. Any of it, you find what it is that calls you, because at the moment there's no big movement. There's not that feeling of we're all together, so if we're not all together, let's do it. Find where you fit in and make good trouble, to the best of your abilities.
How do you feel letting go of touring? How do you feel letting go of
liberated?
I
absolutely have not missed it for one split second. And I thought I would. I thought there'd be a big conflict, and I really want to get back on that bus. Oh my God. And I didn't know till I quit how exhausting it was. I really didn't know, because it was my life. It was my life for all those 50 years. And then, I mean, and this is probably the most creative period of my life right now as well. The paintings and the drawings, and I'm writing a book of poetry that'll be out in the spring. I mean, I'm just sort of cranking this stuff out because it's been sitting in there. And because I don't know what we're going to broil to death in global warming, I might as well do it fast.
I love the animation of your drawings. Now, how did that come about? How did you decide?
Well, among the many kind of treasures we found was Joan's artwork. I mean, her mom saved everything, so we had her artwork from 5 years old on, and the artwork itself had a dramatic trajectory, so you see it kind of changing over time, and in the film it gets sort of darker. Our editor, Maeve O'Boyle, our amazing editor, is based in Dublin, and she had worked, a friend of hers had worked with this animation team, Eat the Danger, 3 amazing Irish guys who saw Joan's artwork and were blown away by it. Miri and Maeve saw it sooner than I did, actually. I was worried about it, to be honest. Animation for me in some films take you out of the film, and we wanted it to stay intimate and immersive, and I imagine it more Disney-like, which I didn't want. And then we all figured out a way with Eat the Danger to make Joan's drawings come alive rather than animate the drawings, if that makes sense. So that we just did it in these really subtle ways, and I think it's absolutely, we love it. I think it's extraordinary work.
And it gives a kind of it just enhances the interior of what you've already put on the paper.
And that was
beautiful.
I didn't know what she was talking about. I mean, I didn't know animation. No.
Well, we had never done animation before in any of our films, so it was new to us. And for the poor guys, had a big learning curve with us as well. You know, we think, oh, well, can't we change that? And that would be, 8 months of work or something to do that. But we loved it, and it comes at the right time. I think in the film, I think we used it right, and they were just extraordinary. If anyone needs animation, Eat the Danger is worth your consideration. So yeah.
And along these same lines, do you find the same? It's probably not the same, but I'll ask you anyways. Is it the same? Do you get the same kind of creative release or intensity painting that you do performing and singing?
I think I do.
I love it.
I think I do. I'm very content with it. I do it in chunks. I mean, for about 10 years, I just did portraits. I just painted with acrylics. And then something else came along. Okay, poetry. I've had this poetry since the 90s. Never done anything with it, so I'm down the rabbit hole with that. And then the upside down drawing book. I don't know if you've seen it or not. It's called Am I Pretty When I Fly? And there are all these drawings I did upside down. Not standing on my head. It just means you would be seeing it right side up, and I'm seeing it upside down. And so I put that book together. That was easy because their pictures were all over the house. I'm still finding them. I think, oh, phooey, this should have been in the book. There were 150 of them or something like that. And so, but this stuff couldn't really jettison itself out the way it has done now, I don't think, while I was in the middle of being a professional singer on the road.
It's almost like you have to give up one part
A little bit,
to tap into the other. That's fantastic. That's inspiring, right? Well, it was amazing going through not only, your family story was incredible, and your relationship with your sister is just beautiful, and your mom, amazing stuff at the end with the mom. It's just so beautiful, so beautiful. And now do you find that now that your family is your son and your granddaughter, that's a different kind of family warmth and community that you have? Partly because of my own recovery, that I can now be present in a way that I wasn't before. And so, it's been work with my son
It's been work. I didn't know I was that absent. So when somebody says, you were absent, I think, and then I think, oh yeah. And I look back, and I have to go through that in therapy. What was I doing back then? And so we build a different kind of world that has a more genuine love and warmth to it. But we've worked to get it there. We've worked, and we still do. I mean, if something comes up that's too big to deal with, we get ourselves off to our favorite referee, a really good therapist, and lay it all out on the table, and yeah.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
I really love the Paris stuff too, when she was not only in Paris, in the film, when you were filming, but also the Paris interlude there that you had with the fashion, and just some of those clothes were just insane.
They were so wonderful.
They were so good. They were so good. I'm really hoping for a whole comeback with those clothes.
Just a little bit, I'd like to look like those dames, in their outfits, and it's not going to happen again. I mean, there's certain things that happen as you're aging. There's such a shock. Where the hell did this come from? All of a sudden, there's this thing down here. There's like a rubber tube going around. What happened? It happens really fast. I'm just warning you. It happens really fast. I'm having a nice massage one day, and I wake up and this eye is drooping. It'll come back up tomorrow. It doesn't. It doesn't necessarily come back up. Just be ready.
That's the final word right there. Thank you.
Oh,
thank you for everything. And thank you for
Thanks so much for coming. Joan Baez, I Am a Noise, is playing at the New Art for a full week. If you loved it, please tell your friends. That does make a difference.